Good evening and welcome to New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the Magic Mile, and tonight's broadcast of the IRacing.com Series World Championship, NASCAR's only virtual sanctioned division here at the Magic Mile, round number 12 of the championship here tonight. Tony Stevens joined alongside tonight by Joe Cortez. We might even catch a few words from Nim Cross before everything is said and done. 150 laps, just a shade over 150 miles here at the 1.058 mile New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And Joe, a very different race tonight, almost a sprint race for these drivers that are used to 200 and 250 mile contests, not 150 mile contests.
Very, very quick sprint race out here. 150 laps is going to go by very quickly at this very flat Magic Mile in New Hampshire. Ray Alfalla on top of the pole tonight. He is leading your two contenders by 8 points out there. So Alfalla having a shot to solidify his shot at number 3. It happens tonight here in New Hampshire.
And of course, Alfalla and Hudson really neck and neck in the points, like you said. Hudson did not make the trip to New Hampshire. I don't know if that's a calculated gamble on the part of Tyler Hudson or not, because as the points stood coming into tonight, he actually was 8 points behind Ray Alfalla after the drop race. So Hudson is going to take a no-show as his drop race, which once tonight's over with may or may not allow him to leap back on top of the standings. We'll find out at the course of 150 laps and when that is completely said and done, but a very big gamble on the part of Tyler Hudson. New Hampshire Motor Speedway has one of the more unique tracks we go to in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Flat, multi-banking in each end of the speedway, and a paperclip type shape makes this one of the most difficult places to get around. Let's take a look at New Hampshire Motor Speedway with this week's Hot Laps.
Hey guys, this is Steve Sheehan. We're at New Hampshire this week for this tight, flat track. This is going to be a good segment to do. These cars are a handful. You really got to yaw them out to get them rotating, and they're very loose to drive, so this is going to be fun. Alright, so let's get right into it. I'm going to go into turn 1. Keep an eye on my braking right now. I do not have any throttle. I am coasting. It's rolling really good. Coming off turn 2, going to bring it down to the white dotted line. Exit the corner nice and straight. Going to slide against the wall a little bit, but it's not going to affect me whatsoever. Into turn 3, I'm going to enter with my left sides on the white line. Going to slide up about a half a foot to a foot. Bring it back down to the bottom white line coming off the corner. Again, exit straight. Hit the line, 28.68. This track looks very, very simple, a lot like Indy. It just looks symmetrical, but it's really not. There are tricky spots all around this track, every single corner basically. It's really not exceptionally hard to set up for as much as it is to drive on. You really got to keep an eye on your braking, the way you're shifting the weight through the corners, how hard you transition back the throttle and onto the brake. Turn 1, you really want to get in there and not lock up the brakes. That's the most important thing. That's the thing that bites everyone. You're going to see me lock them up and slide straight up the track. You can imagine if I was going for a pass and I locked up the brakes like this, there's no stopping my car from sliding straight up into the guy above me if there was somebody there. So you're going to see it happen tonight. Turn 2, the rear of the car is going to want to yaw out. It's a little bit more forgiving of a corner than turn 4, but it's very easy to spin this car out or over-rotate and hit the wall with the right rear coming off exit. Turn 3 is probably one of the simpler corners, but you have to get on the brakes the hardest going into turn 3. Kind of like a road course braking zone. You're going to see people show low and possibly block late in the race. A lot of guys are going to try the slide job. It's very important to keep this car on the higher lane all the way around this corner, same as 1 and 2 even. You can make passes down here, but it's very tough to stay down there on the bottom and make it stick. Turn 4, the most important thing is to keep your car off the wall. This track tightens up off turn 4. It's a lot different than turn 2. And if your car is a little loose or a little tight, it's going to be magnified coming out of this corner because of how tight it is and how flat it is. Now, pit road and pit exit here, also quite a challenge, especially if you're racing a pack and especially if you have old tires. Now, I have relatively new tires. I'm going to come in. I'm going to use a little space in the yellow line for my braking point into the corner. It's going to be right there on the bottom. You're going to see it. That's when I'm going to yank the car down and get on the brakes. It's going to be a little snappy loose, but I'm going so slow at that point that it's going to be very easy just to kind of lock them up and save it and get down to 45. Now, pit exit, huge challenge. You can gain a lot of time. You can lose a lot of time if you get sideways. We have to keep our car beneath the yellow line all the way around and merge on the backstretch. Obviously, there's a wall right in our face to the left, and this car's already wanting to yaw out. If we lose focus for a split second, we will hit that wall with the left front, and as most of you iRacers know by now, suspension very, very sensitive. The racing tonight, the restarts, going to be very, very tense. You're going to see some paint traded and fenders rubbed and perhaps some tempers flared. Because it's very easy to trade a little paint and get somebody a little loose, knock someone out of the groove a little bit. It's going to be a good time, and in 2 weeks we have one of the most fun tracks on the circuit for drivers, Michigan. It's very fast. We're going to be going over 210. Stay tuned for Michigan. Hopefully you guys enjoy the race tonight.
And that is an in-depth look at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, affectionately known as the Magic Mile, and a lot of competitors hoping it's very, very magic for them here this evening in round number 12 of the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. 41 drivers are slated to take the green flag in just a couple of moments. Let's walk you through the starting lineup for tonight's 150-lap contest. On the pole, car number 2, the defending this week champion, Ray Alfalla, and to his outside will be the number 11 of Brad Davies.
Starting on the inside of row number 2 will be the man currently 4th in points. That's Brian Schoenberg in the 55 machine. Alex Warren in the 82 starts 4th.
Danny Hansen in the 20 will roll off on the inside of row number 3, and the defending race winner, Michael Conti, will start in P6.
As the cars start pulling into their pits to go line up for the grid, let's continue going down. 3 wide Daly. Byron Daly in the number 93 machine will start 7th. On the outside of him, Joey Brown in the 12 machine starts 8th.
Carson McClellan in the 24. It begins the evening in the 9th spot. Peter Bennett, car 69, rolls 10th.
Nick Ottinger, the 05 machine, will roll off 11th, but he does have a 1-lap penalty, so he will go to the back of the field. As a result, Adam Gill into the 81 machine starts 12th.
13th, the 75 of Kenny Humpy. A good qualifying run for him. And Patrick Baldwin's 52 will begin the evening alongside of him.
Brandon Cattell in the 80 machine will start 15th. Outside of him, Paul Kashiba, another victim of the 1-lap penalty, will start 16th.
Kevin King starts 17th. And PJ Sturgis, the 57, starts 18th.
Row number 10 belongs to Jake Sturgis on the inside, and the 41, Michael J. Johnson, the 39, starts on the outside.
Junior Motorsports driver in the Speedco Truck Lubes machine, Josh Berry, starts 21st, and Carson Downs in the 97 is on the outside of row 11.
Row number 12 belongs to Josh Lawton on the inside in the 40 machine. Tyler Laughlin in the 51 machine starts 24th.
Talk about getting last names confused. Brian Blackford in his famous 33 is 25th. Chad Coleman will start the evening in 26th.
Marcus Lindsay, another one of your chasers for the championship, starts all the way back in 27th in the number 1 machine. Andrew Fayash III, your fan vote in that All-Star race last weekend, starts 28th.
Brandon Schmidt, the black number 3, will roll 29th. Casey Malone takes the green in position number 30.
John Adams, Brandon Bowie, Rob Ackerley, Kevin Burris, and Jason Karlavich, 30 through 35, respectively.
Richard Doucette, Landon Harrison, Matt Busa, and Brian Day, the final cars to take time. 2 other drivers making it into the show by virtue of a provisional starting spot. The 17 of Justin Trombley and the number 16 of Thomas Lewandowski. Field is rolling down the back straightaway, and that means, Joe, we are just about a third of a lap away from going green.
That's a third of a lap away, and the biggest winner here right now so far is Ray Alfalla. He starts on the pole. He gets bonus points for leading a lap, and those bonus points are going to be incredibly valuable to him as he tries to defend his championship for a third consecutive time. Pace car will pull off to the safety of pit road, and it is Ray Alfalla's field. He hits the start line, and we are going for 150 laps at New Hampshire. Ray Alfalla, huge jump over Davies and Schoenberg.
Alfalla on the gas as soon as that green flag was, really before the green flag was even displayed, but in the sim, the leader starts the race, and that in this case was Ray Alfalla, and it looks like he is going to be picking up exactly where he left off in qualifying. As we try to watch a little of this battle going on a little bit further back in the pack, looking on the back bumper at Danny Hansen in that number 20 machine, at the number 5 of Michael Conti as they race off into turn number 1. A couple of drivers we mentioned at the outset going to be taking their one-lap penalties to start the night. Paul Kashiba and Nick Ottinger both coming down pit road to serve those stops. Certainly bad news if you're Paul Kashiba and Nick Ottinger, Joe.
Definitely not where you want to be, because at this point, points are becoming a very, very valuable commodity, and if you don't have them, you're going to be one of the first ones left out. Alfalla, Davies, Schoenberg, your top 3. Michael Conti, who won here last year, he needs a big run. Caution out for the first time. 29 involved.
Looks like Kevin King has had an issue possibly, but that will bring out the caution flag. Actually, I'm being told it's him, but I don't see any sort of damage on his machine or anything really in particular, so I'm not quite sure what the deal is, but nonetheless, we'll see if we can figure out what the scoop is on the whoever that was. I don't see who it was. Looks like maybe even debris on the racetrack, Joe. Nothing I saw on the racetrack. I don't think you did either, and looks like maybe just our friend Jacques decided to make an early appearance.
Nothing on the track so far. We were being told initially it was a 29 of Kevin King involved in something. He's currently scored 15th. So far, nothing on the track. We will have to go to the officials to figure out what exactly brought the yellow out. I'm being told now it's virtual debris.
Yeah, hard to say exactly what brought out that yellow flag, but nonetheless, we are under caution here for the first time this evening. Jacques Debris making an appearance, which I doubt we'll see anybody down pit road, and of course we haven't seen anybody down pit road here under this yellow flag. So while we're at it here, underneath this first yellow flag of the evening, Joe, we want to make a very, very special welcome. Now, as many people have known throughout the season, we've begun to add affiliates, if you will, here to PSR TV. Of course, you have the mothership, PSRTV.com, and the iRacing.com/live website, where you can view all the World Championship events, both the road side and the NASCAR side here. Well, this week, proud to welcome, as we have all season, our friends watching on MRNradio.com. Been a pleasure to have them along for the ride all season long. You can catch all your favorite NASCAR and Grand Am Series races at MRNradio.com. And, of course, included in that NASCAR stuff, yes, us here at the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. A big welcome as well to those watching on iRacing Brazil, or excuse me, Fox Sports Brazil, brokered by our friends at iRacing Brazil. Good to be on in the Southern Hemisphere, largest Portuguese-speaking country down there, and very, very, very passionate about their racing. Good to see each and every one of them logged on and have them on board for the broadcast as well. And just announced this week, fifth one in the party, the New England Sports Network, NESN.com, proudly streaming this week's Niswick broadcast. Joe, very good to have them on board, and really to see our affiliate network expanding as this season has gone on.
Well, it's really exciting to see, because it just shows the strength of the sport and the strength of the interactivity in it. Something that they have been saying for years is once you get the fans more involved with motorsports, the more excited they will be to be a part of it and to really follow it. So, well, big welcome to all of those watching us wherever they are. We're glad to have you. And the cool thing about iRacing, anybody can do it. All you have to do is go to iRacing.com, sign up for one of their promotional specials, and you too could someday find yourself on this very series being announced by actual MRN talent, Tony Stevens.
Well, thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. We won't put the cart in front of the horse, though. We still have to get that out of the way first. You know how that works. You can completely bomb your first one and you're never heard from again. But nonetheless, exactly. Good to have everybody here, and you can get involved. And you were talking about promotions, Joe. The one that I need to take advantage of myself before it expires, the buy one get one free deal with the 1 year promotion they've got going right now. Fantastic deal. You buy 1 year, you get a second year for free. I mean, that's pretty much all you're going to need and not have to worry about for quite a while when you get that 2 year or that 1 year BOGO, I should say, resulting in a 2-year membership. Did that a couple years ago. Quite frankly, I forgot that I did it, and I got an email about 2 years later saying, hey, your subscription's up for renewal, and I went, oh yeah, I do have to pay for that again, don't I? But it's great because those 2 years will fly by. You'll have the most fun you've ever had in your entire life, and you can run these Cup cars, you can run Legends cars, Street Stocks, you can run Grand Am style prototypes, GT style cars with the Ford Corvettes, the Chevy Corvettes, the Ford Falcons like they run down in the V8 touring cars, the Supercar series. Absolutely any type of race car you'd ever dream of running, you can do it and make your dreams reality right here on iRacing.com. iRacing pace car is about ready to duck off of the racing surface, and he'll make that hard left-hand turn. Ray Alfalla, Brad Davies going to lead him down, and Alfalla once again, Joe, on the jump. He's very quick with that accelerator tonight. Jumps out to about a 4-car length lead, and behind him, look at Brian Schoenberg battling Brad Davies for that runner-up spot.
Alfalla knows he has to win this race if he wants to try to solidify his race.
Big
Caution's
trouble
out.
back on the back straightaway. Looks like Chad Coleman has caught a piece of it. Kevin Burris has caught a piece of it as well. It all started when Chad Coleman got turned around coming out of turn number 2, and 3 or 4 cars caught a piece of the action, including Brian Blackford also catching a piece of the action as well, and that will bring out our second caution of the evening, Joe.
Second caution of the evening, and as we've seen before, cautions breed cautions. You know, even that first one may have been, for different things out there on the track. It doesn't help when you have them come out over and over again. This could be a yellow-fueled race, and if it is, that plays absolutely into the hand of Ray Alfalla. If he can stay out front very easily and only go in when everyone else is going in, he might have a cakewalk this race.
He very well could, and as you watched the replay there, you saw the incident that took out Chad Coleman and company. Adam Gilliland did a masterful job of just narrowly avoiding that incident. Of course, Blackburn got swept into it as well, and Kevin Burris, as we said, caught a piece of that one too. So more than likely, those drivers will be making a visit to pit lane in just a couple of moments. Speaking of pit lane, a couple of the other drivers that might benefit from a race that is spotted with yellow flags, Joe, are those drivers that took penalties earlier. Nick Ottinger and Paul Kashiba, they can get the wave around, as it looks like the entire back third of the field coming down pit road. Jake Sturgis is in, Blackford is in, a couple other drivers are in as well. And I don't blame them, Joe, trying to get a little bit off sequence here before the thing really gets deep into the running.
Oh, absolutely. Tires are going to be at a premium here, and these guys want to make sure that at every opportunity they have, they want to get brand new sticker Goodyears underneath these cars. And the better their tires grip around this track, the faster they can run, and the harder they run, the quicker that grip is going to go away. So, good strategy move early for these guys, but it's going to be very interesting to see how just careful they are on these tires and when and how they manage their pit strategy moving forward.
Yeah, and this is a racetrack. You really wouldn't think about it maybe, but you can, if you play your cards right, take possibly 2 tires, be it rights or lefts, and make it work for you. The other thing I've noticed, Joe, really compared to what we're used to seeing at a race in New Hampshire, the groove here is about a lane to a lane and a half higher from what you're used to seeing in the physical world. A lot of the Cup guys you watched on Sunday a few weeks ago were running about that 2nd to 3rd groove. Seems like, at least on the initial starts here, most of these drivers have chosen that 3rd to 4th groove. It almost reminds me of watching a race at IRP. They're so up outside, close to that outside wall.
And I think that's has to do with setup, and that has to do on how they manage their cars going through the track. A lot of these guys want to make sure that they have the best setup for them, and sometimes the best setup is not in the traditional groove.
No, it really isn't, Joe, but you know what? Whatever works for you, that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to matter, and that, of course, is what these guys are absolutely the best at. They wouldn't have made it to the top of sim racing here at the NASCAR-Racing.com Series World Championship without being very good at finding where their car works with the setup that is under it. And we touch on this, it seems like every time we have one of these events, Joe, but what I love about this week, and iRacing in general, is this is really the only form of motorsports that truly is strictly about talent. Yes, talent can get you somewhere in the physical world, but you also have to bring along some sponsorship. If you're very, very, very talented, you might get lucky and get noticed, like a Kyle Larson, to where all he's ever done is drive for owners, and he got picked up by a couple of big-name companies, and now his path is set for him. But he is one of a very, very few that can do that anymore. Most others, you have to be good on the business side, Joe. You have to bring some sponsorship dollars. Not every talented race car driver is good in business. You got to bring that money to help pay for your ride. And, hey, this is the last one where it's all about talent. If you can wheel it, make the setups, and drive it down in the corner better than anybody else, you can earn your way to the top of the tier. Green flag is out. Ray Alfalla once again on the jump. Brian Schoenberg, Brad Davies racing alongside of each other for second as they work through turns 1 and 2.
Alfalla so far dominating this race, has led all 13 laps. It looks like Schoenberg touches the wall out there. There's trouble on track once again.
It's another incident off of turns 1 and 2. Looks like John Adams caught a piece of it. And also Richard Doucette in the 96 caught a piece of that one as well. Looked like Doucette kind of got the heave-ho from the number 3 of Brandon Schmidt right across the nose of John Adams. And that's not a good thing for the Mud Jug Spittoon machine. Looked like he kind of got chewed up and spit out in that one, Joe.
He did get chewed up, spit out, turned sideways, and God knows what. Not exactly what he wanted to see, especially after such a great performance last week. You know, is the Mud Jug Spittoon's truck, or car, I should say, definitely got some exposure last week with that great finish. This week, not so much, but you know what? He's still in good position to lock up his ticket for next year's NASCAR IRacing.com Series World Championship.
As you watched the replay there, you saw a couple of other cars get involved as well. Landon Harrison, one of our onboard cameras this week, he caught a major piece of it. That machine more or less destroyed. And also the 17 machine caught a piece of that one as well. Justin Trombley, who started with the provisional spot tonight, he was running about, back in the 30th spot or so, trying to march his way forward. And, you know, this is the danger, Joe. When you pit early and short pit like those guys did a few laps ago, you get caught up in one of these incidents. This is already caution number 3, and we're only on lap number 15.
Like I said, cautions breed cautions, and we've already had a third caution come out tonight. So we have to be very cognizant of the fact that hard racing and cold tires is going to create some very difficult troubles at this very flat Magic Mile of New Hampshire. Without that long run, without being able to get the heat under your tires and get going, it's going to be very difficult in getting these cars moving around.
Yep, it's all about keeping your nose clean, especially for the first 100 laps or so. And if you can get around some of these early yellows, you might have something for later. But, you know, I don't blame those guys for trying to short pit a little bit ago. And if you made it through the accident, it might still pay off for you if the cautions fall the way you want them to. And quite frankly, Joe, you could theoretically split this race, especially if you're running in the back like those guys were. You could split this race in half, and after that initial stop, make it a one-stop race. With all these cautions, it's more than likely going to be a one-stop race for everyone anyway, but you could really use pit strategy to your advantage here.
Oh, absolutely. If you have the right pit strategy and you're able to mitigate your stops well, maybe take two tires or get on a different fuel schedule than everybody else, you can absolutely take advantage of that and really let it take over for you and chase it for what it's worth.
And that's what's going to be interesting to see and how it plays out here this evening at the Magic Mile. Let's give you a quick rundown as they run. Not a whole lot of spots have changed after the initial start. I think we've had a total of about 1 green flag lap in the books here this afternoon and this evening. Ray Alfalla, the leader. Brian Schoenberg being shown in the second spot. Michael Conti, last year's winner of this race. He is already up to third after starting 6th. Danny Hansen, Byron Daly is 5th. Brad Davies, Peter Bennett, Alex Warren, Joey Brown, and Brandon Cattell make up the top 10. And there you see the onboard with Landon Harrison. He said our onboard camera tonight, he had one heck of a ride a little bit ago. And you can probably see the frustration in his face there. He is not happy, Joe, with what happened there out of turn number 2.
I think he's going to need a cold drink there to kind of to calm himself down a little bit and calm down the emotion that he's got there. Landon Harrison currently scored 31 in points. That is up for fluctuation at the end of this race, but Landon Harrison knows it. You know, he's not in a very good position to make it for the next year, but he's still within that safety zone. Landon Harrison at 31 still can make it for next year, but that being said, you know, you want to do better than that.
Yeah, you really do. As you start to get the second half of the year and you realize you may or may not make it into the championship hunt, you start to worry about next season and just worry about winning races. And you might see guys, speaking of that, take some more chances later tonight that maybe if they're in the points they wouldn't otherwise take. Green flag's in the air once again, and one more time. That number 2 machine, Ray Alfala, jumps out to the lead. But look at that battle for second. Brian Schoenberg and Michael Conti going at it. Conti has really found something here on these very, well, extremely short drag races almost. And it looks like now he's going to move up to second, Joe, getting by Brian Schoenberg in turn number 3.
Has no problems here getting around Brian Schoenberg, it looks like. And now here comes Conti. Conti looking, doing everything he can to make some moves. 3 wide, meanwhile, back towards the field. And we got some more trouble. The 80 car
Big
around
trouble.
75, 52 around 157, getting some of that. Yellow flag out for the 4th time, and it looks like this race will be governed by yellow flags.
That was so far the big one, Joe. The 75 machine caught a piece of it. Kenny Humpy, the 80 of Brandon Cattell, which we were just seeing that in the camera. They were almost 3 wide. In fact, they were 3 wide there briefly. Working out of turn number 4, Kevin King was right there in the middle of it as well. It looked like Kenny Humpy just kind of lost the nose on that machine, pushed out into the number 80 machine of Cattell, and that spun Humpy in front of the field. Patrick Baldwin caught a piece of it as well. The number 97 machine of Carson Downs was in it. Marcus Lindsay caught parts of it. A lot of drivers just stopping to try to avoid the chaos, Joe, but 6 or 7 cars, I think, caught some sort of damage out of that one. And really, it's not a good place to have an accident here in New Hampshire. It narrows up. It's very, very, not a whole lot of space to go anywhere to escape. You need a couple of cars sideways here on the front straightaway.
There are some tracks you can dirt track it a little bit and go sideways through the turns. This is not one of them. The flat surface here, the flat turns, make real estate a premium through those. And if you're not able to get into the corner the way you want and really run your own race here, you could very easily find yourself sideways in a bad, bad way.
And a few guys caught a really, really bad piece of that one just a couple moments ago. Before you know it, it might be a matter of survival here. If you could avoid all the accidents, avoid all the things going wrong, you might end up with a solid top 10 or top 15 finish. A few guys that were involved in that going to be coming down pit road to make repairs. We're going to restack them and re-rack them, and we're going to take a quick commercial break here on PSR TV. You're watching the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship live from New Hampshire. Don't go away.
It's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4, and the checkered flag, he wins his first NASCAR iRacing.
Welcome back to New Hampshire Motor Speedway here in the Granite State of New Hampshire. Lights have just gone out on the first racing Ford Mustang pace car. You know what that means, Joe. We're just a few moments away from turning them loose once again. And look who's on the outside of our race leader. The guy who took home the trophy here 1 year ago, Michael Conti. Well, while Joe gets a little snack over here from the New Hampshire concession stand, we're about a half a lap away from going green. Conti started 6th on the evening, and considering we've only had a few laps, if that, total of green flag action, he has done a masterful job of working his way forward in the running order by Brian Schoenberg in that 55 machine on the last restart. He's gotten by Danny Hansen, and give a call to Danny Hansen, already up to the 4th spot in that number 20, and Byron Daly. It's almost a little bit of a home race for him, the native New Yorker, right there in the 5th spot in the ParkerClickerman.com number 93. Whoa! Ray Alfala decided to change it up, and that was almost disastrous, Joe. Alfala got the jump. Connie now going to slide into 2nd, but we almost had our 5th caution of the day before we even got to the start-finish line.
We were able to narrowly avoid danger there as they continue to run out there. 52 now and underneath the grip. The bound there as we go back up front, the 55 and 20 doing battle now. It's a 20 that has the advantage on the outside lane. 11 wants to go for him as well. Danny Hansen picks up position with Brian Schoenberg, and here come Brad Davies.
I don't think there was much of a hole there for Brian Schoenberg, and I think Brad Davies very wisely cracked the throttle coming out of turn number 4 to allow Schoenberg a chance to slide into line. And this is exactly what we need right here, Joe. These guys need a chance to get a few laps under the belt, so need a chance for the natural progression of the race to begin and this field to spread out. When you're in a bunch like this, when you're in a tight pack, your natural tendency is to try to get as many guys at once as you possibly can. You try to sail it off in the corner, and maybe instead of getting 1 spot, you want to try to get 1.5 or 2. And I think maybe that has bred some of our problems a little bit earlier here this evening, and it looks like already now, after just a lap and a half in the books, the field started to get the message that, hey, in order to finish first here tonight, we must first finish, as it looks like Alfala now under fire from Michael Conti for that top spot out of turn number 4.
And Conti, don't count him out. He's definitely got a car that can beat the number 2 of Ray Alfala, but Ray Alfala knows exactly what he needs to do to stay up front. Don't be surprised if he is able to make some moves out there and stay high.
And you can see that battle for the lead way ahead of you there as you ride on board Joey Brown in that number 12 machine. Looking down the back straightaway, that's a battle about 6 or 7 cars ahead of Brown, who currently runs in the 7th spot. And he's right there behind Byron Daly, who we just talked about a little bit ago. And the one thing you will notice, Joe, is this is pretty much a single-file race so far as you watch Jake Sturgis and the number 40 machine and Josh Lawton going at it. You look at Sturgis try to go down to the bottom, just cannot quite get the grip he needs there. The car might rotate a little bit better, but that forward drive seems to be so difficult. But it looks like Sturgis, at least for the time being, has gotten a little bit more than the 40 of Lawton. Well, not this time. Lawton going to power back by him on the high side.
And Chad Lawton, there he goes, trying to make something happen. Is it going to work on the high side? Survey says possibly, as everyone now starting to work single file out here through the field. They know they need a long green flag run if they want to make something work out here. So now they're getting the heat under the tires and trying to make that green flag run work for them.
Already 20% of the way just about through this event. We talked at the outset how this is a 150-lap event. Pretty much a good 25 to 40% shorter than what these guys are used to running. They're used to running anywhere from a 200 to a 250-mile race. This is 150. It's pretty much a sprint race, and if everything falls right in the way of cautions, it could be a one-stop race, which means, Joe, your car has to be right as this race goes on. You look at somebody like this 82 machine of Alex Warren. His car, well, it's not exactly wrong, but it's not as good as Ray Alfala as he's trying to get by the 69 of Peter Bennett, having some issues getting some forward drive to get up on the back bumper of Bennett at 69.
Correct. Peter Bennett out there doing everything he can to keep in front and keep that position out there. Now as we ride in car with the 82 of Alex Warren behind him, you see about a car length between those two cars. But the 82, I know he's trying to figure out how he's going to go low, even though the high side has been the dominant side so far. An interesting point you made earlier, as I'm watching now the 93 and 12 almost get into some contact there. That high side seems to be more dominant here around the speedway, which isn't necessarily what happens in the real cars, but out here it's a whole lot of fun to watch them navigate that high side and really make it work.
It really, really is the way that iRacing has modeled this car, and I think it has something to do as well with just the sheer fact that these guys don't have anything at stake, Joe. I mean, we all sit here today and we talk about what happened to Tony Stewart in the sprint car, and he's one of the few drivers that, you know, maybe goes a little bit further out on the ledge, if you will, than most drivers do, simply because, well, that's the type of wheelman he is. But very rarely do you see guys sail it off the top of the corner at New Hampshire, and I think some of that has to do with the fact that there's not a lot of grip up there in reality, and usually that's where all the tire marbles end up as well, so it ends up a little more slippery up there. A little bit more of a lack of grip. The sealer and things like that they put down here at New Hampshire isn't necessarily modeled in this game the way it could be in reality. So a lot of factors may play into that. The very most simplest factor is more banking up there. These cars like banking to turn them, and if you watch, Joe, a lot of them try to hang the right rear up on that higher bank part and try to de-wedge the race car to help it turn. As you ride now on board with second place Michael Conti. He is trailing the leader, Ray Alfala, and then it's Danny Hansen in third, Brian Schoenberg and Brad Davies, the top five.
So Ray Alfala continues to lead. Michael Conti only a car lead behind him, though. Remember, Conti did win here this time last year, and Conti needs this win if he wants to improve his chances to win this race. I believe he scored in fifth coming into this race in the point standings. So Michael Conti, he could use this to kickstart his campaign for the championship, and if he can, we'll look for him to be a real contender in the World Championship point standings.
Certainly trying to work his way back up through the standings. We talked about at the very outset, Tyler Hudson came into tonight leading the Niswick standings, but he is not here this evening, and after those opening caution flags, he might be the smart one in the group. We're still waiting on confirmation exactly why Tyler Hudson isn't here. Haven't heard anything, but nonetheless, he is not here, and this will undoubtedly count as his drop race. Oh, hello, Joey Brown. Up the racetrack goes the number 12, Joe. He and Byron Daly and that entire group were really racing hard, and it looks like maybe Daly giving that spot back up as a courtesy to say, hey, I really didn't mean to give that or to do that to you, but, well, I'll take that back. Looks like maybe Daly has some sort of problem as he is slow on the apron in turns 1 and 2.
He might have some problem, which is definitely not what he wanted to see running that Parker Kligerman 93 machine. Byron Daly's been strong competitor all this throughout the series, and if he has some problems at this race, it could really hurt him in the point standings later on. Byron Daly, you never want to see that happen to anybody. Go on.
No, you never want to see that. Now, Daly is back up to speed, so I'm not quite sure what the logic was in that one, if he was just trying to give it back and maybe gave a little too much back, but nonetheless, he is back running. Watching Kevin King now, trying to make his way by Joey Brown after Brown had that oh-so-close moment up in turn 3 a lap or two ago. And looks like Brown's car, we spoke about handling, Joe. That machine is a handful for Brown as Kevin King trying to find a way around it.
Still an excellent battle right now as the 12 and 29 continue to go back and forth. Joey Brown has really blossomed in the second half of this season, and we're really seeing him really be a strong competitor throughout here. However, the 29 to Kevin King experience might beat this one around, and it looks like Kevin King gets the position easily, move him up to position number 7.
Looked like Brown might have got so free off of 2, he either A, had to back off, or B, hit the wall, or C, both. Either way, it resulted in King getting by, and you can see the difference with King pulling away with that number 12 machine. Just behind them, you've got Michael Johnson going at it. Carson McClellan in the 24 right there in the middle of that one as well. And Marcus Lindsay in the number 1. Lindsay caught a piece of that big one on the front straightaway a few laps ago, Joe. Apparently, it wasn't substantial enough to affect his race car. He just moved himself up into the top 11. So Lindsay now running in that 11th spot, trying to chase, well, he's chased down Carson McClellan. trying to find a way around that number 24 machine as they work down the back straightaway here at the Magic Mile. Up front, in case you're curious, Ray Alfalla and Michael Conti are still going at it, but they are nose to tail. No matter how often Conti tries to get by, nothing there. And this is the battle going on behind them. The 20 of Danny Hansen, the 55 of Brian Schoenberg, and the number 11 of Brad Davies. All this happening about a second and a half in arrears of the top pair as they barrel their way off into turn number 3. Hansen doing a really good job trying to hold off Schoenberg and Davies. And, Joe, with Danny Hansen in third right now, this is a run that I think he really needs to be up in the top 5 to get that shot of confidence that he can, in fact, run in this Nisswick series and have a chance to win races.
It's always a good feeling to be up front and be able to run with them and have that ability to win races and stay competitive. And often you also have to remember that, it's not necessarily about winning the race. It's about consistently staying good. That's why you saw Tyler Hudson at the top of this leaderboard for so long. As you're right now on board with the 55 of Brian Schoenberg. He's one that's also been consistently good all year. No wins to his name, but he's gotten very close several times, and he continues to be a force. Battle now, first and second.
Michael Conti has gotten underneath of Ray Alfalla the past couple of times out of each corner, both 2 and 4. Problem is, he cannot get that forward bite we talked about. The car will rotate better, but you cannot get up off the corner as well on the bottom. You can't carry that momentum. And right now, I think that's exactly what Michael Conti is fighting as he tries to search around the racetrack, Joe, to find a way around Ray Alfalla. And I think the other part of this statement here is going to affect this as well, but they still have a pit stop to go. I think if Michael Conti can play poker here with Ray Alfalla, if he knows he's better, maybe, just maybe, he can lure Alfalla into some sort of false sense of security to where maybe the 5 is an adjustment away from dominating this race, and maybe the 2 feels he has the dominant car and chooses not to adjust it on what will probably be the only pit stop of the night.
As you're right on the rear bumper, the number 2 machine looking back, this is exactly where pit strategy is going to come into play. What do they do when they go down to pit road? What do they do when they need to make adjustments? This is where pit strategy comes into play. This is where the battle will be won and lost on pit road. And it wouldn't surprise me if Ray Alfalla and Michael Conti make that decision when they both come down to the attentions of their respective crews.
And that's, as we talked about earlier, could very well, in fact, play into the outcome of this race. And, whoa, hello, Conti. He just about got into the back bumper of Ray Alfalla, and that tells you how on edge these guys are, Joe. The fact that Alfalla just had a moment in 1 and 2, enough of a bobble where he couldn't get back on the gas, and Michael Conti just about gobbled him up.
All it takes is one mistake on this field to change everything and change your entire race. So, all it is a matter of watching in front of you, watching that guy make that mistake and taking advantage of it when the door opens.
That's exactly what Conti's trying to do. You're right on board that number 5 machine as he works down into turn number 3 once again, closing in on 1/3 distance already here at New Hampshire. And listen to him. Listen to him work the throttle, work the brake, trying his best to make as much time around this New Hampshire Motor Speedway as he possibly can. All of this, again, happening, these guys have about a 2-second gap, I should say, ahead of the battle for second with Brian Schoenberg, Danny Hansen, and Brad Davies. And looks like a couple of cars having some issues down on pit road. Jake Sturgis is in. And it looks like a couple of guys having issues already, Joe.
Definitely a shame. You see a couple of guys there in the box. It looks like they're either having engine problems or gas problems. The 41 is stalled right now on the track. That could bring out a yellow flag. Let's see exactly what happens when they come around. A tough break for those guys. And it's kind of odd because you don't see those kind of issues here at this track.
Yeah, not sure what the deal is on Jake Sturgis, but he did come down the pit lane and decided to call it an afternoon or an evening, if you will. No explanation as to why the Jake Sturgis machine has exited the race, but nonetheless, he has done so. And attrition already playing a big factor into this one, Joe. you count him, well, I think Casey Malone is still out there making laps, it looks like, in his number 92 machine, wounded, but nonetheless still circulating. We've got about 7 cars now unofficially out of this race, and Casey Malone, one of the ones we just spoke about, down pit road, in for service. So already attrition, a very, very big factor. Nearly 20% of the field already eliminated.
But that's not a bad thing if you're running up front, especially in that 3rd, 4th, and 5th, Brock. Let's start, with that 35 machine of Brian Schoenberg. After dropping a couple positions, he's back in 3rd. Danny Hansen drops down to 4th. And here comes Brad Davies, who's been a sleeper all season in this Niswick season. Now he's trying to get around the number 89 machine. That's a Hickenjicks machine of Landon Harrison. Brad Davies looking for an opportunity to pick up some position. Currently happy to sit in 5th, but I know he wants 4th and maybe even 3rd.
That he does, Joe. And you know something, Brad Davies is one of those guys that he can lure you into a false sense of security very easily. He's still in touch with the leaders as far as you can see them out the windshield still, which is important as you ride on board with that number 11 machine. Of course, Davies out of Wauchula, Florida. Still enjoying the nice summertime breeze that's happening out there on the peninsula of this country. Can't say I'm slightly jealous, Joe. North Carolina, Charlotte's temperature today, I don't think we even cracked 80 degrees. It reminded me more of Seattle or Pittsburgh, the way it was overcast and dreary, but every now and then you'll have one of those, as Davies closing in on that 20 machine of Danny Hansen for 4th in turn number 3. So Davies right on the back bumper of that Ford Fusion of Danny Hansen. And if you haven't, I'm sure everybody's noticed it's about week number 3 of the season, but the Chevy SS, the Ford Fusion, and as far as I know, iRacing is still working on the Toyota Camry licensing to get all of that in play. Maybe have a 3rd manufacturer in this Gen 6 Cup car. Certainly that would be cool to see as, whoa, Brad Davies. Hello, Chrome Horn. It's about you, Danny Hansen, up in the middle of turns 3 and 4, Joe. I think Brad Davies is trying to deliver a message that he wants by Danny Hansen.
He wants by Danny Hansen. He wants by in a big way. Time is running out. We're already a 1/3 of the way through this race. 20% of your field is gone, and time is running out. Positions are starting to become at the premium. Brad Davies getting a little impatient as he rides right in the back bumper of Danny Hansen. You can see a face full of the 11 in that rear bumper. Now the 20 is going to go way low. Opens the door for the 11. Brad Davies up to P4.
Not sure if that was a forced maneuver on the part of the 20 machine, or if that was a discretion is the better part of valor type maneuver. Either way, Danny Hansen has been demoted now to the 5th spot. Brad Davies, the promotion, up to 4th. And Hansen better watch out. He's got Peter Bennett and Kevin King, as well as Marcus Lindsay, closing in on the back bumper of that number 20 machine. And again, give a call to Marcus Lindsay, Joe. Started all the way back in 27th spot. Here he is running in the 8th spot, and we're not even halfway yet. Lindsay's a Butto Gaming Cockpits machine, might be one of the fastest cars in the racetrack.
He certainly could be.
Whoa,
We've certainly seen all kinds of stuff. 69 now having some problems out there. That is going to be Peter Bennett bouncing off the wall, going off turn number 2, and that's not a good look. There are some tracks where having a flat right side or left side or right side could help you, but I don't think this is one of those tracks where it can.
Other left, Joe. Other right. Other left. Other. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it looked like he just kind of got a little bit of wheel spin coming up out of turn number 2. It's real easy to do. The car gets real light as you're almost floating it out to that outside wall, and if you just flip the throttle the wrong way or crank the wheel, or didn't touch the wheel in the wrong direction, it can get away from you. And that kind of looked like what happened to Peter Bennett. Did a good job, though, of saving it, as that thing, I thought for a moment, was heading down to the tire barriers towards the infield, that they are part of the, well, I guess it's not the infield road course here. It's the infield and outfield road course as it goes down the back stretch to the infield, crosses across the racetrack, goes outside up on the camping hill, and then back inside the speedway right there as you see him crossing that crossover section. But Peter Bennett, nonetheless, a good job saving that machine. Up ahead of them, oh, things are starting to get a little bit hairy. They go by Brian Blackford, but Marcus Lindsay, Kevin King, Danny Hansen, they're getting a little bit racy as Hansen continues to fall throughout this field, and up in the corner of your screen, you'll also see the battle for first, Michael Conti and Ray Alfalla.
Alfalla and Conti right now, the class of the field, only 1500ths of a second between those two. And then you have Brian Schoenberg, Brad Davies, a time zone between Alfalla, Conti, and Schoenberg, Davies and company. They are going to need another yellow flag to come out and figure out what they need to do if they want to be a challenger to win this race. Otherwise, it's going to be the Alfalla and Conti show, and you're going to guarantee you one of these two drivers is going to walk away with a big win that will change the points per election tonight.
It will do that. Want to make a note for fans of the driver, Jason Karlavich. He was involved in a couple of the earlier incidents. Looks like he's coming to pit road again, another unscheduled stop on the part of the 60 machine. He was being shown one lap down. Now he's going to be shown multiple laps down, so it looks like Jason Karlavich not having the night that he wanted. And already, Joe, only 26 cars on the lead lap. That's really a small number considering how many cautions we had earlier. Well, then again, most of those cars that are lapped down got caught up in those cautions.
So Karlavich off the field, and a bunch of other cars looks like they're going to go off the field as well. Meanwhile, Alfalla, Conti continue to battle. The less lap traffic there is, the more sporty we're going to see some racing get out here. So, it's going to get a lot of fun. It wouldn't surprise me if things get real crazy in a hurry.
They might get real crazy, especially again after that one pit stop we anticipate everybody making, and depending on how the cautions fly, it could be the only pit stop of the evening. So you've got to make sure you nail it, you hit your marks getting into and out of pit road, and for that matter, any adjustments you feel that you need to make, you've got to be spot on with those as well in order to have a shot at maybe claiming a lobster here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. At battle for fifth is still a dandy Danny Hansen, Kevin King, Marcus Lindsay. Hansen is doing a great job, Joe, of making that 20 machine as wide as he possibly can. The only problem is slowly everybody is catching that group, and that means whenever Hansen finally does lose that spot, he might be en route to lose a few more.
Maybe en route to lose a few more as they continue to battle back and forth. The 12 and 24 continue to battle. Joey Brown, Carson McClellan, back and forth. These guys did some battling last week at Indy, so it wouldn't surprise me if we see them keep going a little bit harder. The 24, Carson McClellan gets around 12 easy, and once again, we have a pass.
So McClellan up to 9th in the 24 machine. Joey Brown back to position number 10. Kind of Hansen and Brown have both been I shouldn't say falling, but slipping back through this field gradually as this run has gone on, approaching halfway, this time by 8 laps to the midway point of this one. It'll be 67 laps in the books, only 8 away from that magic lap number 75, and these two have dominated it all race long. Ray Alfalla and Michael Conti looking now, trying to get by the number 3 machine and Brandon Schmidt. Schmidt pulls alongside. Very class act move there on the par of the number 3 just to get out of the way, Joe, of these two leaders that are absolutely engaged with each other, trying to outduel one another for that top spot.
29 and 20. It looks like we have a little bit of contact between them as they continue to battle. Almost 3 wide. 20 trying to shove the 29 out of the way. 1 gets contact. 69 nowhere to go. He's going to go way low. And now 20 and 29 making contact again. The fireworks are not done between Kevin King and Danny Hansen. The big winner, though, Marcus Lindsay picks up 3 positions, and he will take away that looks like the 5th position from Kevin King and company. Business just picked up.
We talked about how Lindsay had made his way up through the field in the 20-somethings, all the way back in the 27th spot, where he started the night. Now, plus 23, or plus 22. I'm sorry, can't do the math here. Got the old Joe Ball calculator out. If you've been around sim race broadcasting for a while, you'll get that reference. But nonetheless, Lindsay up to 5th, and I got a feeling that Danny Hansen, well, never mind, up front, it is Ray Alfalla and Michael Conti again. Conti cannot get that drive off the corner. Alfala able to use that momentum to his advantage, Joe.
Alfala uses the momentum. If anybody is going to be able to use momentum and use experience to their advantage, it's going to be Ray Alfala. He's been so dominant this second half of the season. He's really picked it up, and now I don't think he's going to let anything get in the way as we have some crazy things going on the track.
Did you just see Michael Conti push Ray Alfala into turn number 3? Hello, Daisy. I think Michael Conti is trying to deliver a message to Ray Alfala, but Ray Alfala keeps trying to send this one back, return to sender. Eventually, somebody's going to win this battle, and I'm not sure who it's going to be.
Some will win, some will lose, some were born to sing the blues, and Ray Alfala not singing the blues right now. He is riding high as we run on the rear bumper now, but this could be the moment he starts singing the blues. He is high. Michael Conti is low. Conti looking for an opening. He's going to get it using the 89 as leverage, and now they are side by side in turns 1 and 2. It'll be a drag race on the backstretch.
Again, you see how that shorter lane, the car turns better for Conti, but can't quite get the forward drive, but he'll at least stay alongside Alfala. This time, Ray will back off and try the switcheroo, the old crossover maneuver in turn number 3. He now going to find that same problem Conti experienced for the past 73 laps. Not enough grip down low. For the first time tonight, we have a new leader, defending race winner Michael Conti here at New Hampshire as he works down the back straightaway for the first time as the race leader.
Well, Tony, it only took half the race, but Michael Conti now back up front for the first time, and he looks like he's going to be dominant enough to try to hold on to it for quite a while. Schoenberg still in third, Davies fourth, Marcus Lindsay, Kevin King, Peter Bennett, Danny Hansen, Carson McClellan, Joey Brown round out your top 10. But guys, all eyes are on Michael Conti. As he starts to pull away, strategy and conservation may have saved his race and may have put him in the position he's at now.
You know, look at the lap time, Joe. Conti is about a half a tenth to a tenth of a second quicker than Ray Alfala is now if they get in swapped positions where Alfala is the chaser, Michael Conti is the prey. And that might not be good news for Ray Alfala. There's only one problem here. We don't know how hard either one of these have been pushing their car. And as we cross the halfway point, we pretty much have ensured ourselves a one-stop race, Joe. And as we've been talking, if you have any sort of handling issues or anything, you're going to have one shot to get it right. And this might be it coming up in 5 or 10 laps.
So a lot of guys out there shuffling positions around as we start getting more aggressive towards the end of this race. The 20 getting bounced around like a pinball out there, and it looks like he's just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He is going to be looking forward to that one pit stop he's going to make if we continue under green flag, but I don't think we're going to be able to stay under green flag.
They keep bouncing off each other like that. We very well may not. I think if I'm Danny Hansen right now, Joe, I have fallen all the way from 3rd back to 11th over the course of this run. I might consider short pitting here. I mean, I don't know exactly what kind of mileage he's getting, but as soon as I'm within my window, if I'm Danny Hansen, I take the gamble of short pitting, take the benefit of the fresh tires and try to get ahead of these guys and do exactly what I've done this whole run. Make them get around me. It's a lot harder to pass somebody as opposed to it is trying to keep them behind you. The easiest place to pass them, though, is on pit road. And if Danny Hansen wants to leapfrog back ahead on top of the standings, this might be the best chance he has to short pit everyone around him.
Absolutely, this could come down to fuel mileage, and this certainly wouldn't surprise me if it did, if we came down to that towards the very end of this race. Now we have to start thinking about pit strategy and what adjustments you'll make, if any, how many tires you'll take, if 2 or 4, and a full tank of fuel. Now is the time you make those critical decisions that will ultimately win the race.
So, completing lap number 79, let's give you a recap here as we're just past the halfway point. Michael Conti is the leader, Ray Alfala second, Brian Schoenberg. Brian Schmidt has a problem here on the front straightaway. Looks like we are under caution for the 6th time here this evening as Schmidt, in his 2nd incident of the night, all by himself out of turn number 4. And that is a very well-timed caution. If you're one of the leaders, Joe, means you get to split this race right in half.
Not only can you split this race in half, but this is the caution that all the leaders needed. This is going to be the ultimate equalizer for everybody out there. Now everybody gets to come to their crews. Everybody gets to take whatever adjustments they're going to make, and then they're all going to fight for position when they get back to the track. This almost gives it an all-star-like feel to the race. You get that one pit stop that's going to be critical to your strategy, and then you get to make the move and see what you do. Just run it until it goes away.
Well, and here's my question, Joe. We've got 24 cars on the lead lap. That's really not a whole lot of cars. If we get a caution, let's say, with 25 laps to go, do you come down pit road? If it happens, we'll have to see how it plays out, but there's no sense in playing the games of if, ands, and buts. As the leaders, in fact, everybody on the lead lap, going to come down pit road. Michael Conti, Ray Alfalla. Remember, Conti started back in the 6th spot. He'll have pit stall number 6. Alfalla, on the other hand, going to have the advantage of that P1 pit position because he was the fast qualifier here this evening. Service completing on both of those machines on the right side. Crews will work their way around to the left. 4 brand new iRacing Manglers. It'll be Conti winning the race off the pit road, barely, followed by Ray Alfalla and company. And oh boy, Michael Conti on fresh tires ahead of this field, Joe. It might be all she wrote for the rest of the competition.
And meanwhile, there's Brad Davies up in 3rd, Schoenberg 4th. Peter Bennett makes a big jump as well. Marcus Lindsay goes from 17th to what should be a top 10 restart. So a lot of guys here able to make that stuff work and make it happen out there. So there's going to be a lot of crazy racing going on here, and a lot of guys that can all be challenging for what will be a very important win.
Certainly will be. You want to make note, Marcus Lindsay was in the top 5. His pit stall, though, behind start-finish, jumbled the scoring. It'll be righted here in just a couple of moments. We are past halfway down towards the home stretch of this one here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. You're watching the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the restart. Michael Conti gets the jump in. Look at Ray Alfalla. He is being challenged now by Brian Schoenberg. Alfalla tried a little something unorthodox there in the center of the corner, Joe. Don't think it's quite going to work out for him. Brian Schoenberg now up to P2. Alfalla going to try the crossover. I don't know if it's going to work for him as they work off turn number 4.
Oh, wants that crossover, and he wants to work it bad. You know, with little to lose and everything to gain, absolutely try something different, but it didn't work out. Fowler, who drops from 2 to 3. Now Marcus Lindsay, Peter Bennett and company starting to come under fire as well. Then there's a 12 and 29, Joey Brown and Kevin King. These guys have had problems earlier in the race. Let's see what happens as they try to work it out between themselves. Yes, they will. The 12 will drop behind the 29. Kevin King retains the position, and then behind them, more battling. It's a 40 and 91 going back and forth.
So single file for the top few, and then they're battling back behind him for about the 10th spot. We've got the 40 of Josh Lawton, the 12 of Joey Brown, and that junior motorsports driver in the Speedco Truck Lube machine of Josh Berry. Victorious a couple of times over the past few weeks in NASCAR competition, although it was in the NASCAR Wheeling All-American Series at places like Hickory Motor Speedway. But Josh Berry trying to do it here on the 1 mile paperclip, the Magic Mile. That is New Hampshire Motor Speedway, as you ride on board with that number 91 machine, working the top here at New Hampshire, trying to get by P.J. Sturgis, Joe.
P.J. Sturgis was incredible on the All-Star race earlier, this weekend. You saw it here on PSR TV. Tonight, it looks like he's struggling a little bit in position number 11.
Trouble!
And now as he tries to work it out, trouble on the track.
Brad Davies, not trouble so much to spin, but he has problems. He's slowed and is now coming down pit road. Davies, all by his lonesome, an unscheduled pit stop for the number 11 machine, the outside pole sitter here this evening. He'll make the long trek down pit road and stop in his stall. It looks like maybe some sort of penalty on the part of the number 11 of Brad Davies. Big, big story for Brad Davies. The good news for him, Joe, he will barely stay on the lead lap, but he has got a long road to hoe to try to work his way back to where he was running inside the top 10.
Not the right place he wanted to be, not at all where he wanted to be at this juncture in the race. Now here comes the 39 of Michael J. Johnson. He's going to try to look around the 57. Not going to work this time by. They go back to running single file. Meanwhile, Kevin King starting to get aggressive. He's now in position number 7, and he's starting to climb that ladder. He wants to make a move because he knows that he's got to do everything he can to retain position in points.
Of course, Kevin King trying to improve his position, like you said, Joe, in the point standings. And, a lot of these guys are, and for that matter, you look at somebody like Michael Conti right now. Coming into tonight, he was 68 points out of the lead, and that doesn't exactly count as drop week, but here's the problem. You got to remember, Michael Conti missed the season opener at Daytona. See, he started the season in a hole, and he's been having to dig out of it ever since. And quite frankly, he's done a pretty impressive job so far, dominating the second half of this race here at New Hampshire, although that second half is only about 20 laps old as you continue to watch this battle further back in the pack, including the 39 of Michael Johnson, the 57, P.J. Sturgis, all right here in the middle of it, the 91, Josh Berry, all right here in the middle of it as well as you ride on board that number 39 machine of Michael Johnson working into turn number 1.
As they continue to work into turn number 1, Michael J. Johnson continuing to drive that car through the turn. He's going to hold the high line and stay under fire from P.J. Sturgis. P.J. Sturgis has been quiet in the season so far, but it wouldn't surprise me if after that great showing from the All-Star race this weekend, he tries to make a big move happen here in one of his few broadcast races out there. So P.J. Sturgis biding his time, but he might make something happen here very, very quickly.
He's going to have to hurry up, Joe. We're closing in on 50 laps to go, almost 2/3 of the way through this 150-mile or 150-lap race. Just a touch over 150 miles, about 156 miles to be exact. Once you multiply 1.058 times 150, you can do the math, figure it out, and tell me exactly how close to right we are or how completely out in the ballpark we are. Nonetheless, we don't get...
As it looks like we have some microphone issues here, we'll go ahead and continue with the call. Michael Conti still up front. Schoenberg and Alfala second and third out in the field. Marcus Lindsay and Peter Bennett around out your top 5. And this is exactly actually, this is not what I was expecting at this point in the race. Everybody is running single file right now. Everybody's just kind of being patient out here on the track, even though we're getting towards the 50 to go mark. Everybody is biding their time and conserving. I'm surprised that we're seeing this happen so quickly.
I'm really not, Joe. I think that the opening few laps of the race, to use a term a lot of people in the garage and the pits and the servers use, I think the opening laps of the race weeded out the squirrels, if you will. And ever since then, it's been everybody trying to make their way towards the front, including the battle for second as Alfala all over the back bumper of Brian Schoenberg. And I'll tell you one thing, Ray Alfala's chrome horn starting to get a little bit of a workout here.
Alfala has never been afraid to use the chrome horn when it is appropriate, and Brian Schoenberg may be in the crosshairs of that chrome horn. Alfala getting dangerously close to Schoenberg, and it wouldn't surprise me if it happens out there.
Getting a word in on that penalty on Brad Davies a little bit ago, Joe, as we continue to watch this battle for second. You see Marcus Lindsay slowly creeping into the picture as well on that number 1 machine. But Brad Davies, kind of a penalty you don't see very often here. Changed lanes before the start-finish line. We've seen it get some of the best in NASCAR. We saw it get David Reagan a couple of seasons ago. Nearly cost him a Daytona 500. Or didn't nearly. It did possibly cost him a Daytona 500 as he was no longer able to work with his teammate Trevor Bayne under that circumstance and weeded him right to the back of the running order. And Johnny Sauter last season, if memory serves, at Texas, leading the race, got hit with a lane change violation, and it's happened here even in the sim world. Brad Davies, one of the best, misjudged that start-finish line, and he too now going to have to recover from changing lanes a little too early.
So now as you sit on the roof cam of Ray Alfala in the number 2 machine, just trailing the 55 of Brian Schoenberg, you see just how wide that gap is getting. I think Alfala is playing a little conservation right now out here on the field. He's waiting to bide his time as they get ready to make the move out there. Marcus Lindsay now in the mix as well, and Marcus Lindsay needs to get a good finish out here if he wants to still stay viable for this championship.
And I think that's something that's on their minds. Joe, is the championship. No matter if you are Marcus Lindsay or Ray Alfala or Michael Connie or who you are, if you're up here and you're anywhere close to the leaders, that's on your mind. You've seen some of the insanity that can happen. I mean, already tonight we had 4 or 5 cautions at the outset that were just absolutely insane as to what happened and when they occurred. But you know what? That's all it takes is one bad week for the guy leading the points. The next thing you know, you're right there in the thick of it. So you've got to put together as many good finishes as you can if you want to try to win this championship and if you feel you're in contention to do so. And really anybody in the top 5, well, top 4 right now has a very legitimate shot at doing that. You know, Marcus Lindsay is 5th. All this, of course, not including drop races. Peter Bennett's 8th. He really isn't completely out of touch either. But Connie 7th. Ray Alfala, of course, 2nd. And after tonight, he will move to the top of the point. Well, I should say the top, and he'll move by Tyler Hudson. With Nick Ottinger's woes earlier with the lap penalty, most likely Ottinger will not get it. And Brian Schoenberg, currently being shown 4th in the standings, he is only 11 markers behind Alfala. Now, separated by 1 or 2 spots, not a big deal. Alfala leading the majority of this race at the outset. Right now, those two are even in points, so Alfala not going to lose anything, but you better watch out because Marcus Lindsay and a few others might have something to say about that.
Very easily, and Marcus Lindsay not afraid of being vocal when it comes to his skill of racing on the track. The one guy that I'm surprised by who hasn't been able to pick it up tonight is Nick Ottinger in the 05 machine. Right now, out in the middle of no man's land in the 25th position. He had the lap penalty earlier in the race that hurt him. Now he's even more stuck out there, way out in the middle of nowhere. He stayed out under the caution trying to pick up position, and that's going to hurt him later on down the line. With him all being behind Ray Alfala only by 8 points as he now comes down pit road. With him being only down 8 points, that gap is going to increase if he can't make something work on the track.
Yeah, and that gamble that Ottinger took, and I don't blame him, it was a good gamble. I mean, every other caution tonight, except for one of them, we had a caution within 3 laps afterwards. If that would have worked out for Nick Ottinger, he could have come down pit road then, stayed on the lead lap, and been equal with fresh tires and fuel. unfortunately for the Ream Machine, well, it's not quite going to work out in the driver out of Claremont, North Carolina. He's got a much, much taller mountain to climb, and I don't want to say he's out of this championship by any means, Joe, but he's certainly started to purchase the grave plot.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to put it. He's purchased the grave plot, and now he's got to lay in it as a result of just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But you know what? There's still a few more races left in the season, and we've seen crazier things happen in the real world and simulated world. I'm keeping an eye on this battle for second now as Ryan Schoenberg immediately under fire from Ray Alfala and Marcus Lindsay. That second, third, fourth battle is heating up. And that's going to boil over here real quick. That's going to really change and affect the complexion of this race.
Certainly could. And really, I think there's a few battles on this racetrack that are going to end up in that same breadbasket before it's all said and done. That battle for second with Schoenberg, Alfala, and Lindsay. And then you've got another one back there with Hansen and King. And Josh Lawton, Joey Brown, Michael Johnson, PJ Sturgis, Josh Berry. They're all locking horns. Thomas Lewandowski and Justin Trombley going at it. I mean, everywhere you look here, there are miniature packs throughout the field, Joe, of 2, 3, 4, and 5 cars going at it for position. Just absolutely having it out, hammer and tong. And, you're getting down to 40 laps to go. I really can't blame them.
Hammer and tong, it's back as these guys do battle back and forth, hammer and tong, tooth and nail, whatever hyperbole you'd like to use there, you're welcome to use it out there on this field. Kevin King's in seventh. I'm now trying to get around Danny Hansen. There's Danny Hansen on the high line. Maybe not work this time, but I'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, back to Ray Alfala up in the third place position. That gap's starting to widen there. I mean, it's stabilizing, but it's ever slowly starting to widen between the 55 and the 2. Is he just playing chicken right now? Is he just kind of letting everything happen around him?
I don't really know, Joe, and I think that's something we need to worry about because Ray Alfala had clean air for the opening portion of this race. He didn't have to be stuck behind anybody except Michael Conti, and that really only lasted about 15 or 20 laps, and that was later in the run. Now, mind you, Alfala might have the fastest lap of the race, but again, being stuck in traffic is a lot different. Even with 1 or 2 cars around you from running out in clean air like Michael Conti, that machine is ready to turn the way you want it to. It does everything you expect. You get behind these cars, Joe, and you can really lose the nose, and before you know it, you're battling an ill-handling race car that you never practiced for, you never anticipated with adjustments, and it can really come back to bite you before you know it.
Absolutely. That's something that can absolutely affect you. And what's worse is you don't necessarily know when it's happening. You know when it's going to happen and when it's going to affect you. It's just a matter of figuring out when and how it's going to take place. The 12 of Joey Brown is now letting traffic around him. He might be having some troubles out there, or he might be going back to pit road. Not sure what's happening. The 12 of Joey Brown will keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, the 1 and 2 back and forth, side by side, going into turns 1 and 2. Alfala holds on to third, but can he hold on for much longer?
I don't know what he can. Marcus Lindsay going to try to do, nope, he thought about a slide job. And I think he also thought about a door slam and thought better of it. Lindsay on the bottom, you see that car break loose on the exit of turn number 2. All that hard work, he's going to have to step back, reassess, and try it one more time. I will say one thing, though. Ray Alfala is in the catbird seat when it comes to this battle, or really anybody that's looking to be passed is in the catbird seat here, Joe, because of the fact that we've seen track position really is king here. It's hard to pass. You can pass, but the guy in front of you has a big advantage because he almost gets to dictate where you run by where he puts his race car, and if he knows you can't run somewhere, he can move you there, and all of a sudden you cannot make a pass.
This is where wisdom and strategy come into play as they continue to battle back and forth. 12 now having troubles on the track out there. As we said earlier, Joey Brown was pulled off the track, and now he is officially out of the server. Game is over for him, and he will not finish in the position he wanted to. Michael Conti now coming up to lap traffic, going up to a very banged-up Brandon Cattell, passes him easily. When does lap traffic come into play, Tony?
Well, I think it comes into play anytime the leader is, within touch of his pursuers. The only problem is right now, Michael Conti, nobody is in touch with him. except maybe his inner chi. He's in touch with it right now, because that car is simply strolling around the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Guys that might want to be worried, though, that's Schoenberg, Alfala, and Lindsay. They are running, well, I wouldn't say too close for comfort, but they're running pretty doggone close back there, and that is a position that could have an effect on the championship if something were to go awry.
It absolutely could. You know, at this point, points are vital at this point, at this junction. It's a matter of haves and have-nots. If you don't have those points, you're going to be very, very quickly shuffled out of the system, and that's something that the Ray Alfala is trying to prevent right now.
The good news is he's got a fast race car. I think we all know that. There's no debating that. And he proved in the last run he was probably faster over the long run than Brian Schoenberg. But like we just talked about, Joe, track position has been king. What Alfala is finding out now, well, let's face it, Ray Alfala has not passed a single car here tonight. Period. He's been the passee, not the passer. And maybe that's something he didn't quite anticipate, as Marcus Lindsay peeked to the inside of him, trying to make Alfala lose another spot, but not quite yet. Alfala needs to find a way to pass at least one or two race cars here, Joe. Otherwise, well, it's not going to be a bad night for him, but it might not be as good as it could be.
Well, it's going to change the points complexion entirely. Ray Alfala currently 8 points in front of Tyler Hudson and Nick Ottinger. Tyler Hudson not in the race tonight. Nick Ottinger, this is with the drop, I should say. Tyler Hudson not in the server tonight. Nick Ottinger out of contention for the most part. Brian Schoenberg and Marcus Lindsay, 25 points and 32 points respectively, behind with the drop in play. So this could be a big night for Schoenberg and Lindsay if they can get a big run and get around Ray Alfala. They won't take the points lead, but they will at least be in a much better position going into the next 2 weeks.
That they will, and again, we'll have to see how it all plays out over the course of the final few races. Here goes Alfala to the inside. Nope. Brian Schoenberg, he thought about it. He just about opened the door for Marcus Lindsay, Joe. Lindsay tried sailing it off into turn number 3, and hello! Marcus Lindsay all over the back bumper of Ray Alfala's Ford Fusion. Just about caused Ray Alfala to think twice about what he tried on Brian Schoenberg.
Definitely made him think twice, and that is not going to work at this juncture in the race. Alfala can't afford it, especially if he gets penalized as a result. Now Alfala getting a run. He's going to go low. They're backing side by side with Alfala and Schoenberg. Schoenberg's got the run, though, on the high side. The one of Marcus Lindsay almost uses a chrome bumper out there, and we are back to exactly where we were this time, last lap.
This is by far the fiercest and most competitive battle on the racetrack. Working lap 122, less than 30 laps to go here at New Hampshire. Michael Conti has set sail. He is somewhere down in, who knows where. He's probably in Boston by now. But these guys, they are going at it. Lindsay up the racetrack, nearly got to Ray Alfala. But it might cost Ray that time trying to get back in the throttle early. It does move Marcus Lindsay up to position number 3. Ray Alfala, the pole sitter, back to 4th, and it continues. Ray Alfala still has not passed a single car here tonight.
Ray Alfala shuffled out of the deck. That's going to hurt him, especially as he chases his 3rd consecutive NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Meanwhile, up front, Michael Conti showing his muscle once again here. Only 27 laps left to go out here, and Michael Conti, does anybody have anything to answer for him? He is dominant here so far the second half of this race, and the question is, now with this big lead he's built, is there anyone that's going to have any time to go get him?
All we need is one word, Joe. Yellow.
Actually, that's two
Or
yellow.
caution.
It's 2 words.
Well, no.
Caution's one word, yes.
Caution or trouble or yellow, whatever the case is, that would be the worst thing Michael Conti could see right now. And you know, Marcus Lindsay, Brian Schoenberg, and those guys are probably in the same boat. They wouldn't be a big fan of it either. But those guys further back in the pack, they really wouldn't have much to lose if the yellow came out. They'd most likely come down pit road, take 4 tires, and try to charge their way to the front of the field. This is a real crucial time of the race. You don't want to see that caution come out if you're any of these front runners. And you know it's in the back of their minds, Joe, that everybody's getting aggressive. People are taking chances, and before you know it, you might see a caution flag, which could completely change the complexion of the race.
Now you're starting to sound like me out there a little bit. Absolutely, a yellow flag could change the complexion of this race and really could shake it up. One guy that I don't think would be opposed to it would be Alfala. He's been good on the restarts, and he would restart on the outside, behind the 55 and Brian Schoenberg. If those two can hook up, they could be gone in a hurry. And another guy who probably wouldn't mind it is Kevin King. He started mid-pack. He's now worked his way up to 6th, and Kevin King could really use them to be stacked up one more time to try to get a jump and at least walk away with the top 5.
King started 17th, Joe, so yes, definitely a good run for Kevin King up to that 6th position. And remember, he was almost in a couple of those incidents earlier this evening. Might have even caught some small pieces of them, but nonetheless, he was able to get around them with minimal, if any, damage, and currently continuing to run well inside the top 10 and knocking on the door of 5th, trying to find a way by the 69 of Peter Bennett. Battle for this 2nd spot, heating up once again. Lindsay and Schoenberg going at it, Joe. I think Marcus Lindsay has said it's time to turn the wick up. It's time to put this thing on fire. And right now, there's a lot of wax melting, and it's on the back bumper of Brian Schoenberg.
You can feel that wax heating up, and they do go battle back and forth. Meanwhile, Marcus Lindsay gets the jump around the 55 of Brian Schoenberg.
Whoa.
Schoenberg makes contact with him, it looks like. Give him a little push of, hey, not appreciate, man. Meanwhile, Ray Alfala trying to make advantage as well. He's going to go low, and now he's got the line on Schoenberg. The only problem is Alfala's not been strong on the low line. He might get the run this time. Not going to happen. Low line, not the friend of Ray Alfala, and he stays in the 4th place position.
I would argue, Joe, that Alfala running back in this traffic.
Running through this traffic, absolutely right. He's got to do something if he wants to make this traffic work for him. It looks like that car is set up to really work the high side incredibly well, but the problem is there is no high side left for him as the number 55 of Schoenberg doing everything he can to block there. So Ray Alfala now has to figure out a new battle plan if he wants to get around the 55. It looks like the 55 might be giving him the opportunity.
Whoa.
No! What a tease.
I don't know what that was all about, but Brian Schoenberg just sort of, well, whoa, hello! Maybe we see the problem now. Brian Schoenberg is getting way loose in the 55. Makes you wonder if that right rear tire with those cars behind him, Joe, if it's freed him up to the point he didn't expect it, as he now trying to race out Fallon. As free as both of those cars look to be at that juncture, Joe, I almost called you Ray. Ray Alfala almost is in a pretty precarious spot right there where if Schoenberg lost it, they both could have been collected in an incident.
And that would have been incredibly detrimental to both of their campaigns for the World Championship. This is something that neither one of them can afford. Alfala now back in 3rd, now back to that high line that he loves so much. The question is, they've got a 2nd between him and Marcus Lindsay with less than 20 laps, or with about 20 laps left to go. Is it going to work? Can he make it work?
Marcus Lindsay needs a caution flag, but then again, the caution flag is probably the worst thing any of these front runners can see, as we've documented. 24 cars on the lead lap. The final one of those is Byron Daly in that Parker clicker machine. We documented his struggles earlier. Well, whatever they were, they've been rectified, it appears, but the problem is he's got Michael Conti in his rearview mirror, and he is just about ready to go one lap down. Chad Coleman in danger of the same thing, and then Andrew Fayash III, he's about a third of a lap ahead of your leader right now, Michael Conti. Immediately in danger of losing that lap is Coleman and Daly, so Conti going to try to contend with them, but I don't anticipate that being an issue, Joe, as you ride on board with Conti, trying to find a way by Daly, and well, Byron's making it a little hard for him. Well, maybe not. Now he'll give him the bottom and go ahead and relinquish that lead, or that lap, I should say.
And the thing about Conti is he really doesn't have to do a whole lot right now. He's got a very safe lead over Marcus Lindsay, Ray Alfala, Brian Schoenberg, and the rest of this field. So there's really not a whole lot left he has to do. All he has to do is keep it out front, keep it moving around this track, keep it turning left, and he's got a chance to make something happen out there. Michael Conti, it's his race to lose at this point.
It is his race to lose. We've talked about a few drivers that have moved up to the field. Conti, Lindsay, and this guy right here, Matt Busa. Started way back, almost last in the field, 38. Had problems on his qualifying run. From 38th, Joe, Matt Busa is all the way up to 12th. He had to avoid all those opening lap accidents. He's had to avoid everything that's happened. And here he is running comfortably in the 12th spot. Great drive by Matt Busa here this evening.
Matt Busa, another strong competitor you saw last week at the All-Star race, and he did incredibly well out there. Other two competitors who won a spotlight out here is Justin Trombley and Thomas Lewandowski. They came out of effectively the middle of nowhere, and now look at them. They're now in the top 15 for one of the first times in the season so far. So Trombley and Lewandowski, great way to survive right now, and great way to make it work right now.
Same with that Ford machine who's right there in the picture, Brian Day. All those drivers started back in the 40s, just about. Brian Day, 39th, Justin Trombley, 40th, and Thomas Lewandowski, 41st. Here they are, racing for a spot in the top 15, so 25 spots or so to each one of those drivers. Good run for each of them, and I'll tell you one thing, when you can pick up that many spots, Joe, and have a solid finish in one of these races, it is a good night.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you can finish top 15, it is a good night. Anytime you have a good finish at all, it's a good night. And a lot of these guys who don't get a lot of TV time, they're having a great night tonight here at the Miracle Mile in New Hampshire Motor Speedway. But the guy who's having the best night of all is Michael Conti. Michael Conti, he's really done everything he can to get up front. He's now got over 4 seconds on Marcus Lindsay, over 5 seconds on Ray Alfalla. He can do no wrong in the next 11 laps.
Well, I wouldn't say he could do no wrong. He could do lots wrong, Joe. The problem is he doesn't want to do anything wrong, and as long as he keeps it between the walls, he won't do anything wrong in the next few laps. But as we've seen before, anything can happen here in sim racing. It's no different than the physical world. And that machine of Michael Conti is starting to become a handful. He has bobbled the last few times off each end of the speedway. You never know. One slip up, Michael Conti could be in the outside wall.
I doubt that's going to happen, and I'll tell you why. This guy has been competitive all season. He's been challenging for top 5 positions all season, and he won here last year. Once you know a track, once you're able to compete there, that's when you start feeling comfortable at the track, and that's when it really starts becoming yours. So, Michael Conti, you're absolutely right. Something could happen, but I don't anticipate that happening. I'm going to go ahead and project him as your winner.
What are we doing now, political campaigns or what? You're projecting things? Way to go on the limb there. The guy's got a 4-second plus lead, Joe. Yeah, real gutsy call.
I'm saying projecting because the checkered flag has not flown yet, so we can't officially call him the winner, but I'm going to project that the next 9 laps, there's nothing that anybody can do to catch him. Michael Conti projected your winner, according to my count. Tony Stevens, however you want to call it, it's up to you.
Yeah, go ahead and pass it off on me. I see how this works. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, nonetheless, after Joe's political punditry, or lack thereof, has made its way through the broadcast, Conti working around another lap machine, and he is stretching that lead. It is out to 4.2 seconds over Marcus Lindsay. Alfalla, another 1.2 seconds behind Lindsay. And Schoenberg in 4th. He's about a second or so off of Ray Alfalla. So really, all the spots in the top 6 or so have more or less solidified themselves in their current running spot with 6.5 laps to go, Joe. But a few of them still up for grabs. Danny Hansen, Josh Lawton going at it, and Josh Berry and PJ Sturgis having it out as well.
PJ Sturgis now breaks into the top 10 in that number 57 machine out there, and he's trying to do everything he can to try to pick up and make it a 9th place finish with Josh Berry. Josh Berry will have none of that. He's going to stay up front, or stay in front of him, as now he almost bobbles it up against the wall. So Josh Berry wants to stay up front at least. Can he do it, though? I think he can, and PJ Sturgis, I think, will be happy to finish behind him. It's better to finish 10th than finish behind the wall.
No, you're absolutely right, but knowing Sturgis, he'll try everything he can to get by Josh Berry. Handful of laps to go this time as you ride on board with PJ Sturgis on his gyro cam. You can see the flat degree of banking they have to negotiate here at New Hampshire. Just a touch over 5 miles left in this one for Sturgis to get by Berry and for Michael Conti to work his way to victory lane for the second consecutive year.
Lap traffic getting way out of the way of your leaders out there, and it looks like the order is pretty much set at this point. Michael Conti up front, Marcus Lindsay 4 seconds away, Ray Alfalla a second behind Lindsay, Schoenberg almost a second behind Ray Alfalla. So unless something crazy happens, it looks like you're watching the race for the race at this point. As we go back to your leader up front, Michael Conti, what an incredible race for him.
Absolutely. You look at this young man, just a teenager, one of the youngest, if not the youngest, driver in the entire field. And what does he do? He comes out here and shows the veterans just how it is done for the second consecutive year. He held the track record, Joe, until tonight. Ray Alfalla shattered that by 3 full tenths of a second. But Michael Conti said, I don't care about a track record. I care about one thing, W's and checkered flags. I guess technically that's 2, but while you're at it, add in big checks. 2 laps to go for Conti, and he will claim another W here in the NASCAR IRacing.com Series World Championship.
As now he works in traffic behind the Parker Kligerman Ford of Byron Daly. There's not a whole lot he can do at this point. He's got a great car. He's doing everything right. He might be very well, he will be your winner tonight unless something crazy happens. And then there's Ray Alfalla, who will end up in the 3rd place finish, but I know he's very disappointed in where he's at. He wanted this win tonight. White flag in the air. Conti, one more circuit to go before he's your winner.
He has got 4 seconds between himself and between himself and Marcus Lindsay. He's got some lap cars ahead, but no reason to push it. Michael Conti, less than a half mile away. He'll negotiate the banking of turns 3 and 4, and off of turn number 4, he'll see the checker flag. Michael Conti, for the second consecutive year, will win at New Hampshire in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Marcus Lindsay will come across the line in second. Ray Alfalla will finish 3rd. Brian Schoenberg, Peter Bennett, Kevin King going to finish out the top 6 with Danny Hansen, PJ Sturgis, Michael Johnson, and Matt Busa up into the top 10. Josh Berry, Justin Trombley, Carson McClellan, Thomas Lewandowski, and Brian Day going to round out the top 15. But Michael Conti, victorious, his 2nd win of the season, his 2nd consecutive win here at New Hampshire, Joe, and he just absolutely showed him how it was done here tonight.
And as we come down to that finish, something I want to highlight, trouble between the 40 and the 91 on that very last lap. Josh Lawton got the hip check, I want to say, from the 91 of Josh Berry. Both of those guys got into or at least number 40 got into the wall to end his race. Not a pleasant finish for the number 40 machine. Meanwhile, back up front, the Michael Conti show has come to an end. It's a burnout time, celebrating 2 for 2, and he has just reinvigorated his hopes at the championship.
That he certainly has. The main performance PC Chevy SS. He is victorious. He'll stop to get the flag here at New Hampshire. You see the Sylvania Silver Star ZXE signage on it. He's going to have some bright headlights to burn here tonight, xenon colored or otherwise. And it is going to be a backwards victory lap for Michael Conti. I guess he's going to need taillights from Sylvania after that one. Around turns 3 and 4. But Michael Conti victorious here at New Hampshire. We're going to take a break. We'll come back and hear from the top 5 finishers here after tonight's 150 lapper at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Don't go away. You're watching the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship live on PSR TV from New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4, and the checkered flag, he wins his first NASCAR IRacing.
Welcome back to the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the Magic Mile here in New Hampshire, the Granite State. Michael Conti, well, it's been magic for him the last 2 times he's competed there, or here, I should say, in the NASCAR IRacing.com Series World Championship. Marcus Lindsay, second. Ray Alfalla, Brian Schoenberg, Peter Bennett, the top 5. We're going to talk to them all here in just a couple of moments. Want to give a big shout-out again, a big thank you to all of our affiliates joining us here tonight, including MRN Radio at mrnradio.com, iRacing Brazil, brokering the deal with Fox Sports Brazil. You can catch us streaming on the Fox Sports Brazil website, and NESN, the New England Sports Network. Again, a big welcome to all of our viewers watching on each of those affiliates here this evening. Joe Cortez has made his way down to the Sylvania Victory Lane here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Michael Conti is there, Joe, for the second time in as many seasons.
Michael Conti goes 2 for 2 in the NASCAR iRacing.com World Series Championship race at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And Michael, that second half of the race, you guys seem to just really take off and make it work for you. What happened at around lap 73, 74 to get you guys going?
Well, I finally got clear track. Behind Ray, it was really tough to get the car to do what it needed to do, and I just ended up riding behind him for the first half of the race once we got going. And once I cleared him, I was starting to pull him a little bit, but the rear tires were so chewed up from trying to keep up with him and get around him. I really couldn't get any space on him. When we restarted there about halfway, it was just clear track in front of me. They battled behind me a little bit. That put them about a second back to start. I think Brian was back there for quite a bit the second half, and I was able to just take the number 5 and just pull away and set sail. And once I got to a certain point, and I didn't really need to push anymore, I just kept the car in one piece and kept the rear tires on under it, just in case Marcus or Ray started to really close in for whatever reason. So the race went perfectly for me. I wish I could have qualified a little bit better. Had a great setup. Same setup sat on the pole, so it's on me for not qualifying better. But the race turned out exactly like I wanted it to, and I'm ecstatic now to be able to win at New Hampshire in 2 tries, win both of them. That's pretty cool. I love the short tracks on here. I run really well at them, and it's a really good race tonight, and I can't be any happier.
You had one critical pit stop tonight that when everybody came down, the last pit stop of the evening. What was the call to your crew on making that work? And more importantly, how did that help you solidify the win tonight?
I mean, it was. I really didn't want to see the caution at that point, Joe. I was pretty content on just riding in front of Ray and making a green flag pit stop and seeing how that cycled around. I knew that I had to get onto pit road well, try to get a little bit of a space between me and Alfala, and I was able to do that without speeding and got down pit road well. Got into the box pretty much spot on and had like a 13-second pit stop or something like that, and that was just enough. And going into the pit stops, I knew with Ray having the first pit stall because he won the pole, I knew it was going to be pretty tough to beat him out. And luckily, I got enough momentum to get out of the box and just nudge him at the line. So that was really the turning point of the race, I guess, for me, just to be able to drive comfortably and run my own race and control my own destiny. If I would have come out behind Ray, I would have been in the same situation that I was in the first run, but I would have had, I think Marcus would have been with us as well, and that might have changed the outcome of everything if I would have had to look out my windshield and out my rearview mirror too. So, like I said, it was a comfortable drive to the victory. The car was great. I'm happy to say that I made the setup this week. Tom Lewandowski's been carrying me the whole season pretty much. I've tried to help as much as I can, but every time I make something, it seems like his stuff is just a little bit better. We end up running his package, but I took Jason Loafing's setup from last season and had to change quite a few things on it, especially in the rear end since we don't have the skew anymore, but made something pretty decent, and that thing really got up and went after 20 laps, and it was a joy to drive. I'm thankful to be on J-Show Motorsports with the Alliance at Drill Isle, and it's a great team to be on. I think we're one of the most stable teams in this series right now, and it's a joy to have such great teammates.
Mike, real quick, you came into this race with drops in the 7th place position in points. Tonight you will do us a little bit of damage and put yourself up further in the points. Looking at the rest of the schedule, what's the plan for the rest of the season?
The plan is just to go out and do what I did tonight. With these guys, with Ray and Marcus and Brian, they finish top 5 every week. So the gap that I have to first right now, I'm not going to be able to make that up myself without them giving up points to me. Even if I won every week, I don't think I could make it happen, and that's not realistic, of course. So I'm just going to go next week or next race and go into it, have a good car there, and just drive as well as I can and not make any mistakes and run a solid race and see what happens. Like I said, Ray, Marcus, and Brian, they're going to be up there every week. I'm not sure why Tyler Hudson wasn't in the race tonight, but that was a little bit of a help to us behind him. Brendan Cattell, another person in front of me, had troubles early, so that gave me some points. So that's, as bad as it sounds, that's what I need to get up there and realistically have a shot at the championship. So right now, too far out, I think, to get up there, but anything can happen. Sim racing is just like real racing. You can have internet problems, electrical problems, your wheel can die. You really don't know what's going to happen. So we'll just have to wait and see see how the season plays out. But it's been a good season, Joe. I mean, I've had great support coming in with Main Performance PC and the RCRL and CB Photography and the Bethwood and JDR Graphics and my whole laundry list of sponsors. They want me to run well every week, and I didn't do that for them. At Daytona, I missed the race, and I've had a couple bad races and had some bad luck too, Joe. But from here on out, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and we'll just see what happens.
Mike Connie, your winner tonight in the number 5. Sheen, Mike, you've already given a lot of shout-outs. Anybody else you can think of you want to thank tonight?
Well, first, I'd like to thank my cable provider for doing the service on the cable earlier today and not disconnecting me tonight like they did last year. So as mad as I was at them earlier, I'm kind of glad that they got that out of the way. So thank you, Optimum and Cablevision and everybody that gives me internet to race on. Thank you for not disconnecting. Got to thank my parents for allowing me to do this. Like I said, J Show Motorsports, especially Tom Lewandowski, Jason Loafing, they really, really, really are great with the setups, and I've learned a lot from them, and that really helped me get something solid under me tonight. And my great teammates, Brian Schoenberg, Danny Hansen, Carson Downs, who is going to be going to college in a couple weeks, so we're not going to see him anymore, so this was his last race. So we'll be losing him, but he's always great to have on TeamSpeak, a good friend of mine. Josh Chin, everybody on that team. I enjoy talking to everybody on there. We have great relationships with each other, professionally and personally as well. So, I'm just, like I said, I'm thankful to be on such a great team, and I look forward to the next race.
Mike Connie, driver of the Main Performance PC Chevrolet for the second time in as many years. Your winner at the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship stage in New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Tony Stevens caught up with our second-place finisher, Marcus Lindsay.
Certainly have, standing alongside the driver of the Abuto Gaming Cockpit Chevrolet. And Marcus, one of the more impressive performances here tonight, 27th to 2nd. What was the difference that would have gotten you up into the top spot?
I think the only thing that would have gave us a chance to win was a caution at the end, and that's the one thing I hate more than anything is a caution at the end of the race, because it usually never goes your way or you have a chance to get caught up in a wreck. So personally, I'd rather have the second and have it go caution free than have a shot back at the win and possibly finish 35th if we went firewall deep.
Firewall deep's never fun, but one thing that we noticed up here, obviously you could pass a lot of race cars. You had a fast race car. Have you guys thought about stepping up the qualifying program at all? Is that a concern of yours? I mean, you did start the night in 27th, whereas if you started 7th, it might have been a little bit easier, would it not?
Usually our qualifying package, I would say, is a little off, but this is by far the worst I've qualified this season. I think I averaged like a 7th place starting spot, so usually it's not a big issue, but I just totally botched the Q attempt in 1 and 2. So I think it would have made it easier. I would have loved to have avoided a couple of those wrecks. There was one on the front stretch that was almost disastrous, and we had to avoid Coleman going around. So I think it would have made it easier, but at the same time, I usually don't have to pass a lot of cars, so it's nice to be able to say that I can pass cars and come from the rear and get to the front. That's a cool achievement for me personally.
Certainly is. 25 spots can make you the hard charger unofficially over the course of this race. Obviously, you have to look through some of the finishing results to verify that, but I do believe unofficially you might be the hard charger, or at least pretty darn close. Thomas Lewandowski might be giving you a run for your money, and Justin Trombley as well. But nonetheless, how did you pass those cars? Because we saw all night long it was extremely difficult to get around somebody who was in front of you.
A lot of the cars that run about top 15, if there's a good enough gap behind to the next car, they would just pull over and let us go. I think Carson gave me the line on entry to let me go. I kind of took it, but Joey Brown let me go. Peter Bennett and Byron Daly, I think, both had mistakes that gave us a free pass. A bunch of cars were really good about just going on by. We had to avoid a couple problems. Kevin King and Danny Hansen got together, and it was almost a cluster on the front stretch. And then I think if you asked Ray Alfala and Brian Schoenberg, they'd say I probably just took the spot. I kind of had to use them up a little bit to get from 4th to 2nd, but it was tough. A lot of spots you had to earn, but a lot of them, the competition was pretty nice about just letting you go.
Well, I guess when you get a fast race car, it seems like they let you go. I know you got a lot of people that makes it happen, or make it happen, I should say, on the number 1 machine, Marcus. Who are they?
I got to thank Michael Main at Main Performance PC and the dealer for Abutto Cockpits. Thanks to him for everything. He's stuck with me for the past few years, and the ups in Pro and the downs in 2012 and the ups again in 2013 are good. High Voltage Media Productions, HVMP. I got to thank Chris Crosby. For Chris Crosby Chassis, he is an excellent guy. He enjoys to help out. He has no problem hosting sessions for me. We'll run laps together, we practice, stuff like that. And he's even on a different team, so that's cool that he doesn't mind, just running laps with me. I also got to thank Lane Sim Products for the stuff that Richard Falkenberg does. He's an amazing dealer with button boxes and stuff like that, custom products. Thank everyone on Wheelman. Hopefully I get everybody. Jason Karlavich, Kevin King, Jared Crawford is back and he tested with us today. Josh Lawton, Chad Lawton, and Richard Doucette. Johnny Housley and Brody Kostecki helped us. Brody helped us a lot with the set this week. Pretty much we ran his base with minimal changes. And Nicholas Gertzen for spotting for me. So everyone, they all make it happen. It's not just me at all.
Well, certainly good to know it's a solid team effort behind the number 1 machine. Congratulations on your runner-up finish tonight, Marcus.
Thank you.
Marcus Lindsay finishes 2nd after starting 27th on the field. Another guy that, even though he didn't win, is still pretty doggone happy. He's standing by with Joe Cortez.
Ray Alfala, your pole sitter tonight, finishing 3rd on the field. Ray, how hard is it to go from 1st to 3rd?
Well, it's pretty easy, actually. I was trying to stay ahead of Michael for at least 75 laps to get an extra bonus point, but fell short a little bit. And then on the restart, Brian kind of scared me on the bottom, and I moved up, and I kind of gave away 3rd place. And then it was pretty much just us 3 fighting as Michael was like 80 seconds ahead. So, good job to him. I pretty much used his setup, an early version of his setup from last season. And that's the one I felt the most comfortable with, but I just not that good around here. Not as good as him anyway, but I'll take 3rd. It was a good points day, and I'm not sure why Tyler Hudson didn't show up. Nick had the issue with the penalty, so I benefited from that. And we'll take 3rd. We had a good battle with Marcus and Brian for 2nd there at the end.
Your setup seemed to be much stronger on the high side than it was the low side. I'm sure that was a deliberate move, but did you anticipate that when you had to make the pass, especially over Schoenberg in those later laps, that it wouldn't be as strong trying to make the pass on the low side?
Well, I was a little loose the first run, and I went up a pound on the left rear, and it didn't really do much. But Brian, I think, burned off his right rear more than me. And Marcus just blew by both of us and pulled away pretty much. And then Brian was just getting loose off every corner, and he got so loose that I was actually able to get to the high side. I was trying to pass him low, but it ended up high. And this track is kind of better to be up high if the guy on the bottom gives you enough room, which he did. So we got 3rd, and it was a good points night, and we'll head off to Michigan, where I haven't finished the race in 3 years.
So you've got Michigan coming up ahead of you. It's got to be a little bit nerve-wracking knowing that you haven't finished a race there in 3 years, especially with having such a narrow lead. How do you mitigate that, and how do you prepare yourself to run that race?
Yeah, well, in 2010 we ran okay here. I didn't finish in the top 5 in the race. And then 2011 we wrecked out very early on. And last year lightning hit my house and I missed the race. So, I'm just hoping I can make the race. It'll be different from last year if we can just start. And we'll see. I kind of struggle at Michigan anyway, so it's a track I need to work on. But it would be nice though if we didn't have a lightning storm before the race next week or 2 weeks.
That would definitely be a good start. Your two-time champion, Ray Alfalla. Ray, any shout-outs you want to give? Microphone's all yours.
Yeah, I got to thank everybody at Drill Isle and J Show for all the help, especially Michael. I pretty much used his setup, and he outdrove me with it, so good job to him. Everybody at Pro Consulting, IRacing Brazil, Gary Mercer Trucking, Disabled Racers, iHolder, Tim's Corner, Hick and Jakes, and JDR Graphics. Also got to thank the G Chief, Harrison Whitelets, for letting us know everything on the track.
Your two-time champion, Ray Alfalla, finishing third this evening. Ray, congratulations on a good finish.
Thank you.
Tony Stevens catches up with my guy, the driver of the 55 machine, Brian Schoenberg.
Brian Schoenberg finished in the 4th spot in his number 55 machine, and well, he kind of had a little bit of a one of those types of nights. Still waiting on Brian to finish debriefing here, and we'll see if we can get Brian's attention momentarily to get him on the mic here. And finally, well, yes, here he is, Brian Schoenberg. And pretty intense conversation it looked like you were having there, to the point that we had to wait for you, Brian. What were you discussing with the guys to try to improve that car?
Well, basically, it was just too free all race. We were lacking forward drive off the whole time. We've been testing for it and everything. With this short track tire that we've been running on, it's been like that a lot, like at Richmond and other places like that. And I don't know, it's just too free the whole time. First long run of the race, it wasn't too bad, but the final run of the race was just absolutely brutal because I was just trying too hard to hold off Marcus Lindsay and Ray Alfalla. So it was definitely a handful, but I mean, it's good to be driving your butt off and still get a top 5 in this series.
Well, hey, you get them however you can get them, and I'll tell you one thing, you certainly earned it here tonight. We talked about passing a little bit earlier with Marcus Lindsay. We've, of course, talked about it with Ray Alfalla during the broadcast, how it was very difficult, it looked like, for him to pass cars once he got back in traffic. But how did your car react? Obviously, you got by Ray on the restart. Was it much different out front of the little pack as it was in the middle or behind it? Or was the car more or less the same?
It was pretty much the same. I was basically just crashing off every corner. The only way I could get by Ray and them was just like the first lap after a restart or so. But yeah, I didn't really have any forward drive off to pass anyone or anything except the broken, damaged cars all race. Last year was really fun because our cars just, I don't know, it was absolutely amazing. We could just pass anyone at any time last year, but it was still more than good enough for Conti to win the race. So just congratulations to my teammate, my buddy there. It's big for him. It's good for our team.
Certainly is good for you guys, I'm sure. Looking forward to Michigan in a couple of weeks up in the Irish Hills, the 2-mile D-shaped oval. A whole lot different style of racing than we have here at New Hampshire. Is this something that B-Show could maybe be in victory lane afterwards?
Well, who knows, Tony? I mean, this whole season's just been really weird because I thought for sure this was going to be the place I could win a race at, and then I realized, after this race, I mean, heck, we run better at a couple other places instead of where I really wasn't expecting anything. So, I guess you could say anything's possible. It's just more or less, being around right place, right time. But with Tom Lewandowski and all these guys, I'm sure they'll make a fast car like they do, every week. So, wherever we go, I mean, it's going to be fine. The cars are going to be fast, and it's good to be on a good team like this. It's been a good stretch for me personally. 3 top 5s in the last 4 races. The only one that we're missing a finish at was pretty much Talladega. So really been a good stretch for the 55 car in this team. So definitely I'm happy with the performance. I wish my car was a little bit tighter, so I would have had a chance to hold off Ray and Marcus, but it's hard to complain. I mean, I'm really happy for this team.
Don't blame me, it sounds like a good night. Who all does make it happen for your group?
Just mainperformancepc.com, Obuto Gaming Cockpit, so Obuto Revolution, Pro Geek Consulting with Matt Salo, JDR Graphics with JD Layer, and just thanks to Mike Main, Jason Loafing, and just all my teammates out there, and Michael Conti again, and just Tom Lewandowski, Ray Alfalla, and everyone over at Drill Isle as well. It was just a good night. I just want to thank the fans, thank Long White, and just thanks to everyone for watching the race. I'm sure we'll be watching it in a day or 2, like we normally do. And, well, just thanks again. Anything I can do to make you guys laugh or anything?
Yes, but it's probably not suitable for television.
All right, we'll
Brian
keep that under the wraps.
Yeah, there you go, exactly. Brian Schoenberg comes home fourth, and he's in high spirits, Joe. I can't blame him. Solid top 5 run. The guy that finished behind him looks like he's somewhere over next to you.
Peter Bennett climbing out of his car after a very good run out there. And Peter, great run out there, finishing 5th. What was the secret to getting up there at the end?
Well, I have to thank one of my friends who's really good with computers, because my entire 2 years on iRacing so far, I've been racing on a very old computer, and he finally upgraded my graphics card, and it made a huge difference, and it was so much easier to drive. So I have to thank Brendan Costello for hooking up my computer, and I guess it really did pick me up a lot of speed tonight.
Definitely, the teamwork and friendship made it work for you. You've got to be really excited after this finish tonight. It was a very contentious race. A lot of guys working very hard for a lot of positions. What was the hardest part about this race? Was it the yellow flags at the beginning or the long green flag run at the end?
I think a lot of it had to do with track position in the beginning. You really just want to stay out of the mess in the back. And a lot of it is luck on restarts. Guys get good starts, bad starts, you get shuffled around. But other than that, it's just manage your tires and be as consistent as you can. I made one mistake in the race. It was about halfway through. I hit the wall, I had about 20 seconds of damage, and I got really lucky that it didn't really affect my race too much.
So with this top 5 finish behind you, looking forward, you've got Michigan in 2 weeks from now. How does your mindset change? How does your mindset change from being on a short flat track to a very high bank, very long D oval?
Well, I'm gonna miss New Hampshire. I never really liked it in the past, but I've run very well recently. Michigan is a track that I've always liked, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. And just for points, and I don't really change my approach. I've always just tried to stay in the top 15. My goal coming in the season was to get 2 top 5s. I just accomplished that, so that's something I'm very proud of. And I try to be consistent and stay out of the wrecks.
Absolutely the best way to do it. Before we let you go, any shout-outs you want to give, anyone you'd like to thank, the microphone's all yours, my friend.
Brendan Costello for hooking up my computer. Hammer Down Motorsports, Brandon Cattell, John Adams, Lee Herron, Stephen Azzini, Corey Henry, Ryan Rudy, all those guys. I just can't thank them enough. We actually threw the setup together in about 10 minutes. It was a setup from last season, and we were just lucky it worked, so I'm just really grateful for that.
Excellent finish for Peter Bennett, who will walk away with a top 5 finish here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Congratulations on the top 5, my friend.
Thank you.
So, top 5 finishers here tonight, rounded out by Peter Bennett. Let's recap the finishing order for you before we cut away for the night. Michael Connie claims his 2nd win of the season and 2nd consecutive one here at New Hampshire. Marcus Lindsay, Ray Alfalla, Brian Schoenberg, Peter Bennett, then Kevin King, Danny Hansen, PJ Sturgis, Michael Johnson, and Matt Busa, the top 10. Junior Motorsports driver Josh Berry struggled back to 11th after his last lap mishap. Justin Trombley, 12th, Carson McClellan, 13th, Thomas Lewandowski, Brian Day, Rob Ackley, Tyler Laughlin, Alex Warren, Adam Gilliland, and Josh Lawton rounded out the top 20. Brandon Bowie, 21st. Andrew Fayash, the 3rd, finished in the 22nd spot. 23rd, Brad Davies. 24th was Chad Coleman. And 25th was Nick Ottinger. Paul Kashiba finished 26th. Byron Daly, 27th, a couple of laps in arrears. Patrick Baldwin, 3 laps down, 28th. Brandon Cattell, 4 laps down in 29th, as was Brian Blackford in 30th. These cars all out of the race. Brandon Schmidt, 31st. Landon Harrison, Joey Brown, Jason Karlavich, Jake Sturgis, Casey Malone, Kenny Humpy, Carson Downs, John Adams, Richard Doucette, and Kevin Burris 1/4 of the field out before the end of the event. Final thoughts before we go away, Joe Cortez. 2 weeks, we visit the Irish Hills of Michigan and the Michigan International Speedway.
In 2 weeks, you're going to have a completely different style of racing, which will challenge these drivers in a completely different way tonight. But tonight was about Mike Conti and the guys who were able to get up front. My congratulations to Mike Conti for making it 2 for 2 in 2 consecutive attempts here at this track. It really is going to shake up how we look at the points picture going into that race. And right when you think everything's solidified, right when you think things are where they need to be, completely different shake-up once again. The points will be shaken up, and next race will be incredibly critical in order to put yourself in the position to win the championship. Before we go, I do want to give a quick plug to my guy, Tony Stevens, my broadcast partner, and congratulate you on what's going to be your very first Motor Racing Network race with the Grand Am Series and the VisitFlorida.com Sports Car 250 at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Racing begins at 5 p.m. Eastern. Listen to them at one of the 19 affiliates that carry the Rolex Grand Am Series, or 30 of them, or MotorRacingNetwork.com, the voice of NASCAR. Tony, you've earned this opportunity, and we're all incredibly proud of you. Congratulations on your debut this Saturday.
Oh, thanks, Joe. Again, it's just one, and we'll see where it goes. But I'll tell you one thing, I have to thank you and Matt and everybody for giving me opportunities to develop my skills on Papyrus titles and ultimately now iRacing. And, of course, everybody that's helped me to this point, people like the UARA, and of course people at Charlotte Motor Speedway and places that I've worked and done different things at. It's been one heck of a ride, and I got a feeling that's just getting ready to kick itself into overdrive, but we'll find out. Fly out Friday morning, and it's gonna be a good one. Ironically, I'm going to the racetrack with a guy that's been very instrumental in a lot of simulation development, Tony Rizzuti. He'll be working pit road for that broadcast. So yes, by all means, if you can tune in and listen to us. It'll be, as you said, on any one of the MRN affiliates that do carry the Grand Am Series, or you can catch it online at mrnradio.com and grand-am.com. Looking back at tonight's race, what an absolute display of dominance by Ray Alfalla and Michael Conti, both of them duking it out for the top spot. Ultimately, the guy with a little bit faster car and a little bit bigger will to win, Michael Conti, ended up with that checker flag, leading 78 of the 150 circuits. Tightening up the point battle slightly, Tyler Hudson, well, he didn't show up. That's going to make it completely different from what we expected entering tonight. And things, they are changing at the top of the heap as we go to Michigan in 2 weeks. Into the final third of the season. This is where championships are won and lost. Don't miss it. We'll be with you in 2 weeks from the Michigan International Speedway. On behalf of Ian Bushing, Ilka Hapola, Chuck Johnson, Matt Thomas, the entire PSR TV crew, Joe Cortez, our friend Tim Terry, who's up in Quebec covering a Pass North race here tonight that Kyle Busch won very handily, I understand. I'm Tony Stevens signing off from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway saying congratulations once again to Michael Conti. We'll see you in 2 weeks at the Michigan International Speedway. Good night, everybody.